Some very simple mistakes can cost you a lot of time and a lot of money. So today, let's talk about the most common long-term food storage mistakes. Hello, everybody, and welcome to SuttonsDaze. If you're new here, my name is Lisa, and we are all about pantry preparedness. We work really hard to do all this, right? We work really hard to can it, to dehydrate it, to freeze dry it, to buy it, to stack it to the rafters because the world is what it is today. But if you make any of these mistakes, you could be risking your long-term food storage, which will cost you money that you won't get back, okay? And it will cost you time that you won't get back, and it will make your storage unusable. So today we're going to talk about 14 long-term food storage mistakes that are the most common that people make. Number one is using the wrong kind of containers. You need to make sure that they are food grade. So when you go to the store to get buckets, okay, you need to make sure that they are food grade buckets, and they come in all different colors, shapes, sizes, all the other fun stuff. But putting it into a non-food grade bucket could risk what you're storing in there, even if it's stored in Mylar. So make sure that it's a food grade bucket so that it doesn't hurt you, doesn't hurt the food. Make sure that your food is safe. The other thing is to make sure that it's airtight. Airtight is key. It is number one key, okay? Because if you can't keep it airtight, then you cannot keep out the air, the moisture, or the pests. And those are all serious things when it comes to your food. Gamma lids, while they are pretty good, are not necessarily airtight, but they will work at keeping stuff out. I've never had an issue with anything getting into any of my buckets that contain my sugar or my flour just open because I work out of them with gamma lids. However, you do, if you're putting up for long-term storage, you do want to make sure that you have a good, secure system for your food. So if you are putting your food into Mylar, make sure they're sealed properly, okay? If you're putting food from the store like beans, put them into different packaging, vacuum seal or Mylar them. I am big into Mylar because you can't smell through it. The vacuum sealer bags, that's the word I'm looking for, the vacuum sealer bags can be porous depending on where you're getting from. So they're not as airtight as Mylar is. Mylar is just, it's the Cadillac of food storage bags, okay? So those are the best ones when you're looking at dry storage for long-term food storage. Just make sure you write on it what's there. Incorrect temperature. I'm constantly being asked, can I store it in my garage? Can I store it in a shed? Can I store it here? Can I store it there? You have to factor in temperature. Temperature is key because you want it between 50 and 75. Those are the optimal temperatures to keep your food safe. And that is whether it's home canned, store canned, whether it's dry, all freeze dried, all of that. You want to keep it at a good temperature. So even my Thrive, even my commercially freeze dried food, okay, that has the Nutrilock system, which is bar none the best, even that could be jeopardized if I were to put it into a shed or put it out in my garage where it can get to be 100 degrees. That's not good for the food inside the can because obviously that container heats up also, which then the food does. Heat degrades the food long term. So putting it in your garage or putting it in a shed is not the thing to do, or a vacant motorhome on your property, or whatever the case may be. It's not a good thing. You really need to have it in a temperature controlled situation. Now, for those folks who live in the southern hemispheres or the very western where it's hot, right? Oh, what if the air conditioning goes out for a week and we don't have air? You're going to have to look at it. So your commercially freeze-dried stuff should be good. I mean, you're talking about a week, right? And your home canned should be good, but you want to go through and you want to check all of the lids to make sure that they stayed sealed, because if it gets too warm, it can pop those seals on the home canned food. You don't want that. That's not the optimal thing. So when you're talking about a short-term inconvenience of loss of power, thus air conditioning or that kind of thing, that's not going to ruin your food. Don't throw it out. As long as it's sealed, you're good, okay? But if you were going to do that over an extended, very long time, months and months, then it probably wouldn't be a very good thing. And you would want to find a way to get the food storage down into a cool, dark place. If you are dealing with winters like we do up here, Having this out in the freezing temperatures when it gets to be 20 and 30 below, that's not good either. That's actually not good at all, especially for your home canned stuff, those glass jars and liquid. So it's gonna freeze, it's gonna bust the jars, and it's gonna obviously ruin the seal. And as far as this goes, it's pretty much the same as with the heat. The severe cold doesn't make it a good thing. Now, it's kind of like having a freezer. Okay, but never have I told you to put that in your freezer. It's not a good thing to do. So you want to have it in a temperature controlled climate. Odd instances, you lose power or, something happens. That's going to happen. You find a way to make it work. Here we have a wood heat that we can use when it gets really cold. We don't have to worry about it too much, because we can regulate the temperature in the house. The furnace almost never turns on. In the summertime, we open windows, we pull shades, we do what we got to do to move some air, and it stays good. I've had jars on my shelves for years, and we've had summers where I'm like, no, I'm not turning on the air. It was fine. It was all fine. So you have to consider the impact that it's going to have and the longevity factor. If it was a long-term outage, the end of the world as we know it, then I would be moving all of this stuff under the house. It would all go into the crawl space and I would make it work, even though I have no desire to ever go into the crawl space. Another really bad mistake is to have it someplace that has a lot of moisture. So that's number 3, moisture. If your basement is super moisture filled, super humid, whatever the case may be, you may notice that the metal lids on your home canned products start to rust a little bit. You may notice that your commercial canned stuff starts to rust a little bit. Yeah, not good, okay? For obvious reasons. Rusting metal on your food, not good. So you want to make sure that you're keeping the moisture out of there. And then obviously if you've got dry goods down there, you want to make sure that they can't be impacted by the moisture. So keep track of your basements, keep track of wherever you're storing it to make sure that your humidity is not too high and that it's not impacted by any moisture. If you have a flood, oh gosh, one of our dazers, Terry, had a horrible flood, flooded her whole basement. Jars floating everywhere. The National Center says it's not a good idea to save those jars if they're floating in that nasty sewer water, okay? Don't do it. It's going to break your heart. I'm fairly confident because I know it would break mine. But better safe than sorry. And so we're going to go with what the pros say as far as saving your food if it's floating around a flooded basement. Number 4 is a lack of pest control. Not taking the necessary precautions to ensure that you are not getting rodents and that you are not getting insects into where your pantry lives. If you've ever had to eradicate pantry moths, you know how much fun that is not. And mice, never. Mice are horrible. They're just, I'm trying to figure out what exactly they're good for, but yeah, mice are horrible. So you want to take the precautions ahead of time, not after it happens. After it happens, the damage is done. So do what you can to prevent any of those things happening. And a culmination of quite a few of these suggestions or, mistakes will help you keep the pests and the rodents out. Poor rotation, number 5, I think. Poor rotation practices. Yeah. So if you are not rotating your food, then you are wasting money. And who's got money to burn right now? Because I don't. So you want to make sure that you're rotating through your food. You want to make sure that you're using it the way that it went in. First in, first out, always. And it can be challenging sometimes, but if it's worth doing right. So make sure that you are rotating through your food properly based on the first in, first out system. Number 6 is ignoring oxygen exposure. So if you buy a bag of beans and the bag of beans has a hole in it, but you just put that bag of beans up, okay, you're going to have problems. You're going to have problems. If the moisture gets in there, you're going to have problems. If the pests get in there, you're going to have problems. You'll make the food not usable. It can go bad faster, and obviously insects, mice, not a good thing, right? So you want to ensure that you are addressing the oxygen exposure to your foods, regardless of what it is. I have had powders, I've had bouillons, that kind of thing, where I just didn't think about it and they were in the can, okay, and I just put the lid on, I put it in the cabinet, and I blatantly forgot about it. Life happens. We all do it. I'm not passing judgment, so don't judge me. It happens. But then when I dug to the back of the cabinet and went, oh man, and because that is not an airtight can, okay? Once you open it, it's not an airtight can anymore. So the fact that I didn't move it into an airtight container and the fact that I live in a state surrounded by water, moisture did end up getting in there. And I had to pitch half of a can of powder. So it's not good and it's a waste of money. And I really hate doing that. And I think that you will too. So be sure to pay attention to oxygen exposure, because it can affect anything, literally anything. Number 7 is incorrect packaging. So I mentioned Mylar, then there's vacuum seal bags, there's 5-gallon buckets, there are canning jars, there's vacuum sealing canning jars, there's all kinds of ways. Using Mylar inside of buckets, okay? There's all kinds of methods for storing things. And you want to make sure that you're using the correct packaging to get the longest life and the most safety for your food out of it. So when I say yes, you can vacuum seal rice in a vacuum seal bag, sure, you can do it, but it's not optimal to ensure that the food lasts the longest. The Mylar is what ensures the food lasts the longest. Taking the food out of its original packaging that you get from the store and repackaging it into Mylar or glass jars, okay, that ensures that it has the longest life possible. Otherwise, why do it if you can't do it right? I understand that, okay, well, I'm going to try to use this really quick. Life happens to everybody. So doing it right the first time is going to save you a lot of money moving forward. Mylar bags are not that expensive. Vacuum sealing is not that expensive, and the culmination of all of them can improve your chances for keeping your food longer, safer, with less issues. Number 8 is ignoring expiration dates. Now, we have talked about expiration dates a whole bunch on here, right? And best buy dates. Now, best buy is best buy. Expiration is expiration. Is your milk going to expire on May 5th? No, but it might not taste good by May 7th because it will expire by then, okay? It's best used by May 6th. Yeah, but it's still edible on June 6th. So best buy and expiration dates are different. Know the difference. Pay attention to which one is on the food that you have and try to rotate through the food so that you are using it by its expiration date. Best buy, you've got, a year, give or take, depending on what it is. Expiration dates are important, and if you are not paying attention to them, again, you are wasting money and you are risking your food storage. Because has anybody here ever had a can of tomato stuff kind of blow up in their pantry? It's ugly. It's ugly. Lived through it once, long time ago. Somebody's grandpa did a lot of canning. It was all in the basement. We were in the living room and we started hearing stuff going off. It was ugly. Okay, so pay attention to the dates, the expiration dates, the best buy dates. Rotate through your food as you should. Number 9 is inadequate sealing. So if you're one of my canners, then if you don't get a good seal, that's not safe to store, it's not safe to eat. So inadequate sealing on Mylar, inadequate sealing on vacuum seal bags, inadequate sealing on your jars can cause things to go bad faster. So even if it's spices that you just stick in a mason jar and you vacuum seal them, if you don't vacuum seal them, there's still a good chance that oxygen can get in there because it wasn't adequately sealed, which means it's going to go stale. If you put the wrong kind of lid on there, because they have those plastic caps that go on your jars, those are not airtight. So the air can get in there and can make the stuff no good. It's good for not having a jar of pickled beets tip over in your fridge and make an unholy mess, just a little mess. So inadequate sealing of whatever container they are, buckets, Mylar, jars, the whole deal. You have to pay attention to how it's sealed and make sure that it's sealed properly. Number 10 is not considering light exposure. We are in a spare bedroom. of our home. That's what I turned into our pantry. Has two very large windows in it. So I have those pull down shades in front of it. There's blackout curtains. There's all kinds of things. As a whole, I don't have a whole bunch of food stored by the windows anyway. That's mainly like shampoo and paper products, that kind of stuff. But light exposure is not good. It can degrade your food no matter what it is. So if it's canning, it can degrade the food in there. It can actually rob it of nutrients. If it's dried goods, again, it can rob it of nutrients. It's just not good. Light is not good for your food. It's okay to turn on a light. This light comes on when I come in here. This light goes off when I leave. It's never just left on. The windows, those shades have not been pulled up in years. I don't even know if they would pull up anymore, okay? Blackout curtains are the bomb and really make life great for blacking out the light. So you want to make sure that wherever it is, it's dark. You have to make sure that you are considering the exposure of light. If you are using a bookshelf or an old entertainment center or something like that, you can hang those tension rods on it and hang little curtains on it to block the light. There's always a way to block the light. I get this question a lot. I've got a dented can. What should I do with it? Put it first on your rotation, okay? So storing damaged goods. If you have cans or jars or whatever the case may be that are dented, banged up, damaged in some way or another, that's not good for long-term storage. Put that in your working pantry, make it gone sooner than later, okay? But long-term storage requires a certain amount of structure so that you know that it's secure. And a dented can or whatever the case may be, ripped bags, you know, anything, does not ensure that it's secured. So you want to make sure that you are not storing damaged goods. Number 13, not labeling your containers. Oh, do I have experience with this one, as I still have a jar of what I think might be pectin, but I'm not entirely sure, and eventually I'll get around to looking, but who knows. Label it. Don't trust your memory, because no matter how good your memory is, it's not that good. I mentioned that I have a shelf here with shampoos and, you know, dry goods or dry, you know, paper products and that kind of stuff. And the one thing that you want to make sure that you're not doing is that you're not storing any of your food, anything that is consumable, near chemicals. So don't store it underneath your laundry detergent or your window cleaner or your bathroom cleaner. Don't store it underneath your shampoo. Don't store it underneath any kind of chemicals, because if anything happens, comes down, it's all over your foodstuffs, okay? Or if something happens, it can go sideways. So keep it on a different shelf. Keep it as far as you can, okay? It just should not be in direct line of any kind of chemicals. That's another reason why garages and sheds are not a great idea, because a lot of times people store chemicals of some sort or gas of some sort in their garage. You don't want your food out there. That's not good. So number 13 is don't store your food near chemicals. Number 14, as you see this very tightly filled shot, right, is inadequate space management. When your space is inadequate and you're not managing it to its best potential, then there are going to be more instances where your first in, first out is going to fail. There's going to be more instances where you have significantly expired food that's really expired, that you really don't want to eat, okay? Because you're not managing the space that you're putting your pantry into. So managing that space to the best of your ability. In here, we took these Musselman shelves. It takes 3 shelving units to make 2 shelves where I can adjust the shelves to be the size that I need them to be, okay? That allows me to stack stuff in there, not waste a lot of space in between the shelves. You know, it's just a whole bunch of fun. So that's why we stuck with Musselman, and they're very sturdy. Muscle shelves, muscle racks. That's what they're called. They're called muscle racks. I'll put a link down below, but because the shelves are adjustable, and because by combining multiple shelving units, you can create a flow that works for you. Now, say you don't have room for this. We have a whole video on different ways that you can store food so that you will get the most out of it. You have to remember where you put it. You have to make sure to check on it on a regular basis. It's not a set it and forget it. Don't fall for these 14 food storage common mistakes. Check out this video right here to see different ideas on where you can store your food. Until next time, everybody, be safe.